Hey everybody, Rose Matter here. Welcome to part 4 of my Song of Saya Let's Play. In the last episode, Fuminori just completely abandoned any semblance of humanity and normalcy that he had left, as he chose to devote himself completely to Saya, even when given the option by her to basically have his brain fixed and return to his normal life. He chose not to do it, and in essence, I don't think he's going to be coming back from this. And that is only compounded by the fact that he basically left Koji to die in the mountains. And poor Yo is basically been turned into some sort of like weird sex doll by Saya. So it's not gonna get any better, I don't think. But anyway, we're gonna jump back into it. We're gonna see what happens next. I feel great, the same feeling you get when the last piece of a difficult puzzle slides smoothly into place. I've killed a man and no one will ever know. It's a long way back to civilization, but neither the cold nor the exhaustion can ruin my good mood as I walk alone down the snow-covered mountain road. It's not even like I got rid of a problem. It's like I've killed a man and I'm happy about it. A man who was my best friend. He doesn't even see him as his friend anymore. I was tempted to use Koji's car, but that would have introduced a flaw into the plan. I don't want anyone to connect me to his disappearance. The plan formed in my mind the moment I realized how remote the location was. Even if I couldn't find anything to lead me to Dr. Ogai, his absence would at least prove the cabin had been utterly abandoned, in which case it would be the perfect spot to take care of a problem. I knew coming all the way out to Tochigi wouldn't be a waste of time. I didn't even need to use the meat cleaver hidden under my jacket. A dry well. It's like fate itself provided me with a perfect setting. That idiot didn't even realize the danger he was in, and his phone call distracted him enough for me to take him by surprise. Now one of the two people whose questions might have caused trouble for me and Saya has vanished from the face of the earth. All that's left is to eliminate the other. Damn! Damn, wow. Tsukuba Yo. I mustn't underestimate her just because she's less aggressive than Koji. Even she should be able to see a connection between the disappearance of her two friends. Oh, I wonder how he's gonna react when he comes home and sees Yo in the state he's in. Is he gonna be like, well, we need to kill her? Or maybe he's gonna have some fun with her? Fun. Yeah. I suppose I should be thankful it was Yo to whom Koji was talking on the phone. If he'd reported our location to a third party, I'd have to track down and eliminate that person too. Okay, so he doesn't know that he left that message for his doctor. I'm a little worried about what they were discussing, but judging by how Koji was screaming into the phone, they probably weren't exchanging detailed information. Either way, I'd better get rid of Yo as soon as possible. After walking all night long, I finally reached the Nasu Flat station just as the trains start running. It only takes an hour to get back to Tokyo on the Limited Express. It's not enough time to rest, but I'm too wound up for that to matter. Besides, I don't want to waste any time thinking up a way to kill Yo. Damn. Using the cabin again would be too dangerous, and I'm not sure how I'd get her out there in the first place. I just exploded in her face the other day. I doubt she'll be as quick to trust me as Koji was, which means it will be difficult to get her alone. I could ask Saya for her opinion, but even I have some pride. I want to show her I'm a man who can take care of business. Well, I hate to say it, but his problem's been kind of fixed. Unfortunately, I'm unable to come up with anything before I get home. Oh, I don't want to see what Yo looks like. I suppose I should just be proud of having dealt with Koji, the immediate threat. The search of Dr. Ogai's cabin was a bust, with no trace of his having been there, but I see no reason to be frustrated. Saya isn't all that concerned about the doctor's whereabouts, so looking for him is just something to satisfy my own curiosity.
Tadaima.
I'm home. It's morning, half a day later than I normally get home, and the sound of Saya running down the stairs tells me just how impatient she was for my return. It makes me feel warm inside.
Okaeri, Fuminori!
Welcome home, Fuminori. She throws her arms around my neck, her smile at least 20% brighter than usual.
遅くなってごめんな。いろいろ予定が変わったもんで。
Sorry I'm late. There was a change of plans.
私の方ももうちょっとで準備が終わるとこ。
Preparations. It's okay. I'm just about done with my preparations, too.
準備?
Preparations? Saya responds to my confusion with a mischievous smile.
ふみのりをね、びっくりさせる準備。
I'm getting a surprise ready for you.
どういうこと?
What kind of surprise?
まだ内緒。それよりふみのり疲れてるでしょ？ お腹空いてる？それともお風呂？
That's a secret. Anyway, aren't you tired? Do you want to eat or take a bath first? I didn't realize how hungry I am until Saya mentions it. I walked all night without a bite to eat, and now my stomach's emptiness becomes painfully clearer. However, I can't sit down to a leisurely meal while covered in the dirt and sweat of the road.
軽く何か口に入れて、それから風呂に入りたいな。
I'd like to grab a
温ま
quick
るまでゆっ
snack
くり。
and get in a long hot bath first.
そう言うと思って沸かしてあるよお風呂。一晩中外にいたんだもんね。寒かったでしょ。
I thought you'd say that, so I got the bath ready. You must be cold after being out all night.
ああ、そりゃも
Yeah, I sure am. I'm amazed by Saya's foresight. She's always ready to give me what I want before I want it.
ふーん、大変だったんだ。
It sounds like you had a hard time. While soaking in the bath together, I tell Saya about my adventure.
う殺すのは思った以上に楽だったんだよ。ただ、帰り道がね。
Damn, just so blasé about it. Killing him was easier than I thought. The hard part was getting home. I really hope that the doctor is going to get that message and save Koji, and then they'll be able to put a stop to Fuminori before he kills more people. The heat of the bath is soothing, as is the sensation of Saya leaning back against my chest as she massages the fatigue out of my stiff leg muscles. I'm home. Contentment fills me. I don't even need to sleep to relieve my exhaustion. Just like the living room and the bedroom, the bathroom is painted in the colors Saya and I find pleasing. We've left the entrance and hallway untouched just in case someone should see inside, so these 3 rooms are the only places I can relax in my own home.
この季節でも山の寒さは尋常じゃないね。薄着で行ったのはつくづく失敗だった。
It was cold in the mountains even for winter. I should have worn heavier clothing.
夜中あたりは凍死するんじゃないかってヒヤヒヤしたよ。
I was afraid I'd freeze to death when it got dark.
そのコウジって人の服も取り上げて重ね着してくればよかったのに。
Why didn't you just take that Koji person's clothes?
おいおい、工事は井戸に落としたんだってば。着てた服も井戸の底だよ。
I pushed him into a well, remember? His clothes were with him at the bottom.
ああ、そっか。
Oh yeah. Saya laughs and sticks her tongue out bashfully.
で、あと心配なのがつくばよって女の人？
So now there's just that Tsukuba girl to worry about?
工事が消えたのと僕のことを結びつけて考えそうなのはそいつ一人だけだからね。
She's
彼
the,
女の始末が終わったらやっと安心できるんだが。
she's the only person I can think of who can connect me to Koji's disappearance. After I take care of her, we can finally relax.
ふーん。
Saya glances at me over her shoulder like she knows something I don't.
その人の殺し方、もう文則は考えてあるの？
Oh, I wonder if she can hear all this since they, Oh boy, have you already thought of a way to kill her?
それがまだなんだ。いろいろと考えたんだけどね。だからサヤの知恵も借りようかと思ってさ。
Well, I've been thinking about it, but I haven't come up with anything yet. I was hoping you might have some ideas.
任せといて。
Leave it to me, she says, grinning with unusual confidence.
さやはね、文則が想像もつかないような方法を知ってるよ。
I've got
もう解
ways
決
you'd
した
never
も同然
dream
なん
of.
だから。
It's as good as done. Oh, yo. Oh, I think she's gonna suffer the worst of all.
そうか。
Really?
さてと、もういい加減仕上がってる頃だし。
Okay, it should be ready by now. Saya's voice is full of anticipation. Mine is anticipation, but not in a good way. She rises from the bath.
でよ、文則。見てほしいものがあるんだ。
Come on, I have something to show you.
目をつぶって。私がいいって言うまで開いちゃダメ。わかった？
Close your eyes and don't open them until I say so, okay?
うん。
Okay. I have no idea what's going on, but I do as Saya says and close my eyes. She takes my hand and leads me up the stairs. As I wonder what she has in store for me, oh, the sound of crying reaches my ears. I stiffen.
サヤ、上に何かいるんじゃ。
Is someone here?
目を開けちゃダメ。
Oh, I doubt he's gonna have second thoughts, but no peeking, she admonishes me, then strokes my arm soothingly.
危ないものじゃないから安心して。
Don't
大丈
worry.
夫。
There's no danger.
ああ。
All right. Oh, this like thumping sound in my ear. Little by little, the crying grows louder. I can hear the misery and pain in every choked sob. At first, I'm amazed that Saya would let someone in our house after what happened 2 days ago, but then I realized something is strange. Isn't Saya the only one whose voice can carry such clear emotion to me? Oh, she's already been changed. Although my eyes are still closed when Saya leads me to the bedroom, my ears tell me there's someone only a few feet away, and yet I smell none of the human body odor that normally turns my stomach, so I wonder if he's gonna see her as beautiful again.
さあ、ご対面。ふみのり、目を開けて。
Oh god, what am I gonna see? Okay, time to say hello. Open your eyes. I open my eyes and am struck dumb by what I see. Oh, she is too. Sakuba Yo is curled up on the floor with not a scrap of clothing to cover her shivering body. When I first lay eyes upon her naked flesh, I'm entranced by the sensuality of her generous proportions, far more mature than I would have expected from her usual pure and innocent appearance. Wait, forget about that. Why is she in my bedroom naked? He's probably just like, oh my god, a woman who actually looks like a woman and not like a little girl. Moreover, why is she...
どうふみのり。この子の体、どんな風に見える？
Well, how does she look to you?
綺麗だ。でも、なんで僕にもちゃんと。
She's beautiful, but why can I... It doesn't make sense. This is the Sakuba Yo I remember, not the putrid creature whose attentions I found so unbearable after the accident. My senses recognize her as the human that she is.
この子ね。ふみのりのことが好きだったんだって。
This girl loves you, you know. I do know, but I've never told Saya. How did she find out?
だから私、この子の体を作り変えてあげたの。ちゃんとふみのりにも可愛がってもらえるような姿に。
So I decided to change her body into one you can love back. Saya pauses to gauge my reaction, then continues with a satisfied nod.
私の同類にしてあげたの。
I made her like me.
どうしてどうやって
What? How? I still don't understand why Saya chose Yo, but this last statement is even more baffling. So... okay, never mind. I was thinking the other way around about the neighbor. The thing is, she changed it so that the neighbor saw things like Fuminori, but he was still human. Whereas with Yo, she's changed her into a monster that Fuminori is able to see as a human. She changed Yo?
ねえふみのり、おとといも言ったでしょ？私には他の生き物の体に細工ができるんだって。
Don't you remember what I said the other day? I can mold the bodies of other living things. Yes, I remember. She claimed to have done something to Suzumi's brain. I didn't doubt her sincerity then, but I suppose some part of me thought she was exaggerating. I hadn't seen her handiwork firsthand. But now...
隣のおじさんにしたような小細工じゃなくて、今回のは大掛かりな変換だったけど、でもこれが私の能力の本当の使い方なんだよ。
It was a big change this time, not like the little tweak I made to the man next door. But this is how my abilities are really meant to be used.
実際にやってみたのはこれが初めてなんだけど。
Which once again begs the question, what is Saya's purpose? This Dr. Ogai, her father, I have to assume he made her this way. He did some sort of like horrible experiment to her, and that's why he got banished from the hospital and is basically in exile. This was my first time doing it, though.
これが本当によ。
Is this really Yo? Yo finally notices my presence and turns her head to face me. I see a faint glimmer of recognition in her glassy, unfocused eyes. Her features are exactly as I remember them. Incredible. This is far beyond cosmetic surgery. Once a twisted creature, unrecognizable as human, Yo is now the very image of human femininity. There's no similarity between what she was and what she is, which can only mean she's become something utterly inhuman. According to Saya, she has become what Saya is.
人か人目の生態構造についてはね、さやはもうこの星で一番のエキスパートなの。いっぱい勉強したからね。
No one on this planet knows more about the biology of Homo sapiens than I do, Saya declares, her voice full of pride for her first creation. I've studied a lot.
勉強って何を誰から学んだんだいつどうやって
Studied? How did you learn this? Who taught you? When? She couldn't have learned it from Dr. Ogai. No teacher on Earth could impart such knowledge or skill.
だって毎日ふみのりの注ぎ込んでもらったじゃない。
Oh boy.
私の中に。
Come on, don't you remember what you've been giving me every night? Saya blushes.
あれ 要は人間っていう生き物の設計図みたいなものだから
That's like a blueprint for the human body.
私にはそれを読み解くことができる
Oh,
の
is it like...
好きなようにいじることもね
I'm assuming she's talking about the stuff that comes out of a thing. I don't want to say it because I don't know if I'm going to get demonetized for it. It's like a blueprint for the human body. I can decipher it, and then I can bend it to my will. What is she really? I've accepted she isn't human, but there's more to her than that. Saya is something that far transcends my species.
でもねやっぱり最初だったもんだから手際よくできなくって
It was my first time though, so I might have messed up a little. When Saya approaches, Yo trembles and tries to crawl away, but is only able to flail her arms and legs wildly. It's like she doesn't know how to move her own body. And the only sounds coming out of her mouth are frightened moans.
喋れないのか
She can't talk?
あいにく心の方は壊れちゃったみたい
Yeah, Saya sighs in mild disappointment. I guess the change broke her mind.
なんだかんだで返信が終わるまでに20時間もかかっちゃったから
Oh my gosh, poor
ちょっと
Yo.
かわいそうなことしちゃったかな
I mean, it did take a
か
whole
なり
20
苦しか
hours.
っただろうし
She must have suffered a lot. I feel kind of bad. Yo looks up at me pleadingly as though begging me to save her. She's no longer able to ask me for help though, or even call my name.
でどう気に入ってくれた
Ugh, literally just like a sex doll. Well, Saya asks, her eyes shining with anticipation. Do you like her? I am at a loss for how to respond.
どうって
What do you mean, like her?
だってふみのり友達や家族が欲しいって言ってたでしょだからこれはさやからのプレゼント
She says that, but then, like, he was just talking about how he has to kill her, but I guess if they keep her locked up here and she can't speak, and she's a monster, then she's not really gonna be a problem for them. You said you wanted friends and family, didn't you? That's why I got you this present. Her innocent explanation only confuses me further.
プレゼントっておいおい
Oh,
子犬か何かじゃあるまい
he
し
still has a little bit of humanity in him. Present? Come on, she's not a dog.
似たようなもんだよどうせ頭の中なんて真っ白なんだから
There's not much difference. Her head is totally empty. I'm happy Saya wants to please me, but she could use a little more common sense.
いや人間一人を監禁し続けるっていうのは多分かなり厄介なもんだと思うよ
It's not that. Holding a person captive is probably a lot harder than you think.
大丈夫だよほらこうやって鎖でつないであるし
Don't worry about it. Look, I have her chained up. The only thing preventing Yo from being totally naked is the leather collar around her neck. I have no idea where Saya got it from, but it's the kind of dog collar that would be sold in any pet store. The chrome chain is fastened to one of the bedposts. Oh my goodness. Yo tries to get away again, but Saya sends her sprawling with the tug of the chain. Yo tumbles to the floor, squealing in pain. Her actions are those of an unintelligent animal, just as Saya said. Well, I guess we'll just throw away the chance of Yo having a happy ending. Koji might still have some hope.
それにこの子どっちみち逃げ出して何かしようとかそういう難しいことはもうできないから
She doesn't have the brains to escape or get help.
ね
See?
これでもうふみのりが心配することなんてないでしょ
There's nothing for you to worry about. Saya has a point. I was racking my brain for a plan to kill Yo, but now my problem has been solved in a way I never could have imagined. Well, there goes that. I was like, oh, he said that she's not like a dog, and how she shouldn't be a present, but I was like, okay, maybe he has a little bit of, something in there that cares, but maybe not. If a normal person looks upon her now, they'll probably see no trace of the old Yo, and if she has no memories and can't even speak, then it's perfect. Saya has killed Yo without taking her life. That to me is worse. Like, at least put her out of her misery, you know? Though there's still the problem of what she means by giving Yo to me.
嬉しくない
You're not happy? Saya asked dejectedly, her confidence suddenly gone.
私また何か勘違いしてた
Did I misunderstand
ふみのり
again?
のこと困らせちゃった
Is this a problem for you?
いや
No, but...
この子の世話はちゃんと私が一人でやるよ
Oh my god.
ふみのりにめんどくさい思いなんてさせないよ それでも
She is treating her like a dog. I can take good care of her all by myself. I won't let her make things difficult for you. So can she stay, please? That's not it. The last thing I want to do is to reject this symbol of Saya's affection. But how can I explain to Saya why I'm trying not to look at the naked woman writhing on the floor?
そういうことじ
He
ゃない。
finally realizes this is the type of
違うんだ。
person he should be attracted to, not like a child-looking person. It's not that. Yo is the first human figure besides Saya that I've seen in the 3 months since the accident, and she's a woman positively glowing with voluptuous feminine beauty. Of course I'm happy, but I also can't ignore the voice of reason that's telling me not to be.
嬉しいよ。嬉しいんだけど、素直に喜んでいいのかどうか。さやのことを思うと
He's
さ
almost like, is this a test? Like, if I do anything to her, you'll be all mad at me, and this is like some weird kind of thing where you want to gauge my loyalty to you? I'm happy, really, but if I show how pleased I am, I'm worried that you'll... Huh? Saya looks puzzled, as though she has absolutely no idea what I'm getting at.
いや、だってほら、この子だって女の子だからさ。
I mean, look, she's still a girl, right?
僕がさやの他に別の女の子と一緒に暮らすっていうのは嫌じゃないのか。
Don't you balk at the thought of me living with another girl? After considering this briefly, Saya finally seems to understand what I'm trying to say.
そんなふみのりって考えすぎだよ
Of course not. You worry too much. Maybe I am worrying too much, although I'm pretty sure I'm just showing the consideration that any man who's sworn his love to a woman would show. Or maybe Saya doesn't understand that a man faced with a woman's naked body can't help but react regardless of his feelings.
おかしい本当に優しいんだねふみのりって
How funny. You really are kind.
そうか。
Yeah?
この子はねふみのりのこと喜ばすためだけにさやが用意したの
I only did this so she could please
ふ
you.
みのりがこの子のこと好きになってこの子と過ごすのを楽しいって思うようになってくれたらそれだけさやも嬉しいんだよ
If you like her and enjoy spending time with her, then I'll be happy too.
それ遠慮するようなことじゃないよ
You have nothing to be shy about.
こう言っちゃなんだが。
Oh, here we go. I hate to say this, but I struggle to find the right words to express my true feelings.
男ってものすごく下劣な生き物だから。
Men are, well, really depraved creatures, and hey, come on, don't lump all men together just because you're gross.
ほら、ヨウの体ってさやの裸とはまた全然違う特徴があるだろう。
I mean, Yo's body has features that yours doesn't, right?
これってさやのこと好きだって思う気持ちとは全然別のところで、かなり気をそそられるってのが。
So, even though it's nothing like my love for you, I can't help but get aroused. With each word I squeeze from my lips, Saya's grin grows wider and wider until finally she starts shaking with laughter.
わかるわかるふみのりは男の子だからそれでいいの正常な本能だよ
I know, Saya exclaims jovially, patting my shoulder with one hand and wiping tears from her eyes with the other. There's no reason to be ashamed of your natural male instincts.
いいのか。
Are you sure? I ask again as though trying to force her to say no. Oh, here we go. Oh, Saya answers with a smile whose like I've never seen before. It is calm, so terribly calm, and there is something bewitching about the soft set of her lips that sets it apart from her usual bright, childish expression.
ふみのりとさやは恋人同士
Oh my god.
でつくばようはそんな二人のペット
You and I are lovers, and Tsukuba Yo is our pet.
この子は私とふみのりに可愛がられる
Oh my
たびにそのことを思い出すの
Like, please just kill
これ
her.
から毎日
Put Yo out of her
ずっ
misery.
とね
She will be reminded of that when we play with her every day from now on. I finally know why Saya chose Yo, for the venom in her voice and smile does not escape me. Although she can no longer answer, if asked, Yo would surely have chosen death over this fate, and that is the very reason Saya visited it upon her. How wicked and terrible Saya is. Perhaps others would fear and loathe her. I, however, find her malevolence irresistibly charming. The horrifying cruelty of what she has done to Yo is so very human. Though her shape may be different, her soul is the same as ours. When I look upon Yo's wretched form, I see the intensity and passion of Saya's love for me, for the flames that have consumed Yo are fueled by that very love. I find myself enthusiastically accepting Saya's present.
さやは気に入ってるのかい
Do
この
you...
ペットのこと。
Just not that long ago, he said she's not a dog, and he flipped on that real quick. Do you like this pet too?
とっても綺麗で触り心地もいいんだよ。
Yeah, she's very pretty and feels good to touch.
そうか。じゃあ、二
Oh
人で
my
こいつと遊ぶときも、さやはさやで楽しめるんだね。
So you'll enjoy playing with her
僕
too,
が
right?
遠慮することはないね。
I don't have to hold back, do I? I mean, Yo wanted Fuminori, but not like this. Not like this.
もちろん。
Of course I will. Grinning happily, Saya grabs the chain and pulls Yo to her feet.
ねえ、海のり、触ってごらんよ。柔らかくて気持ちいいよ。
Try touching her, Fuminori. She's really nice and soft.
あ
Okay. As Yo looks up at me with teary, pleading eyes, I approach and let my gaze roam freely over her lush body and right breasts. I run my fingers through her hair, finding it as smooth as Saya's. Enjoying the feel, I continue to caress Yo's head. Her fearful expression softens a little. Perhaps she remembers me in some part of her mind and believes even now I will be kind to her. How foolish. Oh boy, okay. Well, gonna have to censor that as well. I stop stroking her hair and calmly seize both of her breasts. She flinches in pain at the sudden rough treatment, but I ignore her and continue to knead her breasts as my lust demands. They're incredibly soft. When I squeeze them, it's like my fingers are being sucked inside. The tears in Yo's eyes cause a new sadistic desire to well up within me. Ugh, she must not have been sufficiently prepared, as her choked scream is like that of a dying animal. In fact, it reminds me of how Suzumi screamed when I stabbed him with my knife.
辛そうだね。
Looks painful, Saya says, peering curiously at Yo's tear-streaked face.
気持ちいいこの子。
Is she pleasing you?
まあ、
You could say that. The hypnotic quivering of her thighs as she trembles beneath me, her breasts heaving like storm-tossed ships. These sights and sensations are enough to stimulate my basest lusts, and the night has only just begun. Oh, this is awful. Later, as I lie on my bed drained of energy, I consider what my life will be like from now on. Saya is resting in my arms. Yo is curled up on the floor. Yesterday, I could not have imagined that the three of us would be a family. A new home, new food, a new family, all granted to me by Saya. She has selflessly led me from the brink of death to find new joy amid despair. And I too have changed. I have killed 2 people with my own hands and made a third my mindless slave. Yet despite all that I have done, I am still able to sleep peacefully. Without a doubt, I am no longer the Sakisaka Fuminori I once was. How far will Saya take me? What will I become? I feel somewhat unsure, though not discouraged, about the unknown world into which we are heading. And so, while playing with Saya's hair, I ask,
君は一体何者なんだい
Isn't that the million-dollar question? Saya, what are you? I don't expect an answer. If Saya is asleep or doesn't want to respond, I won't mind. Saya lifts her head, however, and draws my gaze into the deep pools of her eyes.
うまく言葉では説明しにくいんだけどね。
It's kind of hard to explain. She thinks for a while, searching for the right words, and then says simply,
タンポポって花があるよね。種を風に乗せて飛ばすやつ。
You know the dandelion flower? The one that scatters its seeds on the wind? Yeah?
綿毛の種は風に運ばれて、ふるさとから遠く遠く離れて、
The wind carries those fluffy seeds far, far from where they were born.
もしかしたら草木なんか一本も生えてない砂漠に落ちちゃうかもしれない。
What if one of them ends up in a desert where not even a single blade of grass is growing?
そんな時、たった一粒のその種が何を思うか。
You can imagine how that lone seed will feel,
それを想像してくれれば分かってもらえるかもしれない。
and you might be able to understand me. As I consider Saya's answer, she continues her story.
種はもちろん草の種だからね。その気になって頑張れば砂漠を砂漠じゃなくしてしまえる。
That seed is still a baby flower. If it does its best, it can turn even a desert into a garden.
ただ一粒だけの種でももしかしたら頑張ろうって思うようになるかもしれない。
Maybe that little seed will decide to thrive.
頑張って育って増えて、いつかこの土地が一面のタンポポ畑になるまで頑張ろうって、そう思うかもしれない。
Maybe it will decide to grow and multiply so that it can turn the whole desert into a field of dandelions.
そんな風にタンポポの種が心を決めるとしたら、どんな時だと思う？
What do you think can give it the strength to do so?
それは
What? I whisper, entranced. Saya smiles softly and caresses my cheek.
それはね、その砂漠にたった一人だけでも花を愛してくれる人がいるって知った時、
All it needs is to be loved by just one person in the whole desert.
タンポポの花は綺麗だねって種に話しかけてくれた時、
All it needs is to be told how pretty dandelions are. The loving touch of her slender fingers fills me with peace and joy.
あなたのこと大好き。
I love you. I pull her into my chest, nodding silently.
ずっとそばにいて。
Stay with me forever. Never leave my side.
あ
I
もちろん。
promise. Basking in the soft warmth of our love for each other, we sink into the oblivion of sleep. Okay, back to Koji. He's been buried alive. His world is the silence and cold of the grave. Ever since his voice gave out and he has lost the strength to scream, no coherent thought has passed through Koji's mind. Perhaps this is his brain's way of protecting him from despair. Instead, he dreams. Images flash before his eyes, random, unconnected scenes from his 20 years of life. Not all of them are happy times. There are sad, painful memories as well, but even these are pleasantly warm compared to the death that is now encroaching upon him. He dreams of mountains. His older brother once took him hunting for insects when he was a child. They sealed their caught butterflies into a plastic bag only to later find themselves holding a bag of tiny corpses. He dreams of his lover. They met at a mixer where he'd been the only one to realize she couldn't hold her liquor. After she'd had too much to drink, he looked after her while she vomited in the back alley. They toasted each other with canned juice, and then... he dreams that he is diving into a black sea. When he reaches the bottom, he looks up to see the moon shining through the surface of the water. As he gazes up at the circle of light entranced by its roundness and brilliance, the distant rumbling of an engine reaches his ears. Oh my gosh, something still conscious within him tells him that his dream is wrong. The doctor came to get him! Have I ever gone diving at night before? The dots begin to connect in his mind, forming a barrier to separate his dreams from reality. What is bothering him? Of course, the sound. The engine noise gradually fades to a low idling, then abruptly gives way to silence, followed by the sound of a door opening and closing. This isn't a dream. These sounds are real. Oh my gosh, please, please let him be okay in the end. Understanding comes like a sudden blow. This isn't the bottom of the sea, and that circle of light isn't the moon. It's the mouth of the well. The sun has already risen and someone is right outside with a car. The last piece falls into place, and he becomes Tono Koji once more. Help! Koji shouts, surprised by how easily his voice emerges. His desperation blocks out the pain of his raw throat. Hey, I'm down here in the well. Help me! He keeps screaming with all of his might. Soon the echoes in the cramped well have become deafening, and he no longer is certain if his screams have meaning or if he's just howling wordlessly. Nevertheless, he continues. His only desire is to be heard, lest he die forgotten at the bottom of this well. Koji's wait is not long, but even a minute feels like an eternity on the edge of despair. Soon the circle of light above him is partially eclipsed by the silhouette of a person staring down into the well. Tono, you alive down there? A woman's voice. Koji has heard it somewhere before, but for some reason cannot remember to whom it belongs. Just hold on, I'll get you out. The silhouette vanishes, restoring the light to a perfect circle. Fear of being left alone again threatens to send Koji into a panic, but his reason is recovered enough to resist. She said she's going to get me out. I haven't been abandoned. While waiting, he gingerly tests his body, which he has forgotten all about until now. His joints ache and his fingers and toes are numb, but though exhausted, he's still in one piece. After some time, the silhouette reappears at the top of the well. Are you hurt? Can you climb a rope on your own? No, I don't think so. Koji lacks the confidence to attempt such a feat. His frozen fingers can barely move.
まあ仕方あるまい。一旦私もそっちに降りる。
Oh well, I'm coming down. After a brief pause, the owner of the voice tosses a knotted climbing rope into the well. He grabs the rope as soon as it reaches him. The rough threads bite into his palm and relief nearly overwhelms him at the sensation. This is really happening. He's really safe. For now, until, Fuminori finds out he's still alive. Now that he's free from despair, questions leap to the forefront of his mind. First among them, who is his savior? The rope shakes as the woman climbs carefully down, the beam from the floodlight slung over her shoulder pushing back the shadow cast by her body. My thought is, how did she know to bring a rope? Does she just bring a rope with her everywhere she goes? Or, I guess with a well, they probably would have a rope nearby in case something like this happens, I would assume. I don't know much about wells. Soon she's standing in the same mud as Koji and he finds himself face to face with...
Sensei!
Doctor?
他の誰かを期待したかい?
Were you expecting someone else? Koji indeed had not imagined his savior would turn out to be Dr. Tanbo Ryoko. Of course, it took him a moment to recognize her. Instead of a white gown and tight skirt, she's wearing a heavy leather coat, denim jeans, and boots with no heel. She must have expected a hike through the mountains. Her light is a blocky, all-purpose type featuring side-mounted fluorescent runners, in addition to the main floodlight. Survival gear and professional grade by the look of it.
ひどいありさまだな。ほらこれ。
You look awful, Dr. Tanbo says wryly as she gives Koji a once-over. Here, drink this. She pulls a flask out of her pocket and hands it to him.
飲み込まず、ゆっくり一口ずつ舐めるようにしろ。少しはマシになるだろう。
Go slow, take small sips. It should help a little.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. She walks around with a flask? Maybe Kochi's just old-fashioned, but it doesn't seem appropriate for a young woman, and a doctor at that. Nevertheless, he unscrews the cap and takes a swig, and struggles to keep from coughing as the potent liquid sears his tongue.
なんですかこれ。
What is this?
スピリタスウォッカ。気付け薬によし、消毒によし。浴びせてから火をつければ効くような相手にはかなり効く。
Spirits is vodka, good for disinfecting wounds in a pinch, and also does a fine job of setting things on fire. Her tone is straightforward and quite serious. Koji can only gape at the doctor, the dark smile on her face doing little to ease his confusion. Is this really Dr. Tanbo? There's no trace of the bookish, mild-mannered woman Koji met at the hospital. Her expression is now set in a hard mask, and her eyes are sharp and wary. In the darkness at the bottom of the well, it is possible, however unlikely, that the change in her features is due to the ominous shadows cast by her lamp. It's not so easy, however, to explain the change in her demeanor.
先生はどうしてここに?
Why are you here?
電話をよこしたのは君だろうが。
You called me, didn't you? Ryoko replies brusquely, glaring at Koji like an annoyed professor.
行方不明者を探してる二人組が妙な留守電の後に揃いも揃って音信不通になったりしたら何かあったと思うのが普通だろ。
I tried calling back, but you didn't answer. Neither did your friend Tsukuba. Am I supposed to think everything's fine?
はあ。
No, but... Koji still doesn't understand why she acted so quickly, but it's a different part of what she said that seizes his attention.
じゃあ、つくばは？つくば陽にも連絡を？
Wait, Tsukuba? You called her too?
したよ。君と一緒で繋がらない。正直なところ、私はてっきり君も死体になってるもんだと思ってたんだがね。
Like I said, she didn't pick up either. To be honest, I figured you were both dead already. That's right, he almost died, and at the hands of the man he thought was his best friend. Anger and frustration well up inside of him. He can't forget Fuminori's betrayal, nor can he forgive himself for his foolishness. And now he has no idea if Tsukuba is safe. Fuminori tried to kill Koji. Could he have done the same to her?
まあ落ち着け。ここで君がいくら殺気だって見たところで始まらん。
Calm down, why don't you? Ryoko says, irritably, turning away to examine the inside of the well. There's nothing you can do from here.
何かあったと思ったのなら、警察には届けてくれたんですか?
If you thought something was wrong, Koji says to her back, then you must have called the police, right?
警察だと?
The police? Still engrossed in her examination of the walls, Ryoko laughs scornfully at the idea.
そうか。 君はまだそういう形でケリがつけられるものだと思っているわけか。
So you still think that's the way out, do you?
どういう意味です？
What's that supposed to mean? Annoyed by her condescending attitude, Koji's about to demand answers when she cuts him off with a gesture and shines her light at the corner of the well.
殿君、こいつには気づかなかったのか？
You didn't notice this?
は？
In the light of the lamp, Koji sees some of the stones are a different shade than the rest of the well. This must be what, or the rest of the wall. This must be what Ryoko was looking for.
気づきませんでした。
Huh.
ずっと真っ暗だったんで。
No, there wasn't enough light.
ふん。
Ryoko's gaze moves slowly along the wall, finally coming to a rest on the gap between two of the stones. The hole is just wide enough for an adult to reach in open-handed.
君、いいところに落ちてくれたよ。ひょうたんから困ってやつか。
You sure picked the right well to fall down, Ryoko says with a grim smile. Like they say, it's always the last place you look. She wastes no time thrusting her hand into the opening. After she feels around for a few seconds, Koji hears the thunk of something solid coming together behind the wall.
先生、
Doctor? Ryoko pulls her hand out and gives a different colored stones a gentle push. With the rumble of weight shifting, the stones slide smoothly back into the wall.
こういう仕掛けか。やられたよ。前に来た時は気づきもしなかった。
So that's how he fooled me. I had no idea this was here the last time I came.
前にも来た。
You've been here before? Koji wants answers, but Ryoko ignores him and peers into the opening. In the beam of her floodlight, Koji can see a concrete tunnel leading into the mountain.
私は先に進むが、殿君、君はここに残ることを勧める。
I'm going on ahead. You'd better stay here. Her warning is utterly devoid of warmth. Considering his options, Koji looks from the tunnel to the rope and back again. He's practically sweating now, thanks to the 190 proof vodka he just drank. But although feeling has returned to his fingers, he still doesn't have the strength to climb. That said, the thought of being alone in the well again makes him shiver.
一緒に行きます。連れてってください。
I'll go too. Please take me with you.
まあ好きにしろ。
Have it your way. Ryoko steps into the tunnel without looking back, and Koji doesn't hesitate to follow.
前にお会いした時と随分雰囲気が違いますね。
You were pretty different the last time we met, Koji says sarcastically, following Ryoko as she moves cautiously down the tunnel with her light leading the way.
ここは病院じゃない。君は患者じゃない。営業スマイルが必要か？
This isn't the hospital and you're not my patient. This service doesn't come with a smile.
じゃあこっちが先生の字ですか。
So this is who you really are?
さあ、どうだかな。
I
どうだ
wonder.
っていいことだろ。
Does it matter? Right? Like, Koji, she's come to save you. I mean, obviously she's got some sort of ulterior motive, but maybe don't be so snarky? Ryoko suddenly stops and stares at the floor. When Koji looks over her shoulder, he sees a dust-covered rope lying coiled up in the middle of the path.
何です？
What is it?
あの井戸から降りてきたやつの小細工さ。
Something left by the last guy who came down that well. Ryoko picks up the rope, examines it, and hands it to Koji.
長さは私が使ったロープのほぼ2倍。途中に結び目があって、端は両方とも切断されてる。この両端がつながって輪になってたのさ。
It's about twice as long as my rope. It has a knot in it, and both ends have been severed. They were connected before to make a circle.
え？
Huh?
外のどこかにこの輪を引っ掛けて、井戸の底まで伝って降りる。
You loop one end of the circle around something topside, then use the rest to climb down into the well.
その後、ナイフで輪を切って井戸の中に引っ張り込めば、井戸の底に降りた痕跡は残らない。
When you're at the bottom, you cut the circle open and pull the whole rope in with you. That way, there's nothing to show where you went. Ryoko shines her light down the tunnel, revealing it ends in a closed wooden door about 10 meters ahead.
こうやってここに逃げ込んだやつは追っ手の目をくらませたのさ。
That's how he avoided detection.
まんまと騙された。
Really got me good.
先生、さっき前にも来たっていうのは。
You said you've been here before?
ああ、君や咲坂君だけじゃない。私も以前、鴎外を追ってこの別荘に来た。
Yeah, you and Sakisaka aren't the only ones, Ryoko said dryly. I checked Ogai's cabin a while back. Oh, damn. As Ryoko speaks, she opens her coat and pulls out what she had hanging underneath it.
他に出口がないとしたら、奴はまだあの扉の向こう側にいるわけだ。
If there aren't any other exits, then he's still behind that door. At first, Koji thinks she's holding a steel pipe. Amazed she would be carrying a weapon, Koji looks closer. and is appalled when he realizes what it really is. A gun. And not one of those sleek handguns that he's seen in the movies, but a double-barreled shotgun. Stock and barrels have been sawed down for easier concealment, enhancing its aura of brutal efficiency.
何ですかそれ
What is that?
ショットガン12番口径。
A 12 gauge, Ryoko replies blandly, as though naming a brand of cigarettes.
私にはこいつを持ち歩く資格なんてないし、こんな風に改造するのも銃刀法違反だ。他に質問は？
I don't have a permit, and cutting it down would be illegal even if I did. Any other questions?
そんなもの持ち出して一体どうするつもりです
What are you planning to do with that thing? Ryoko looks over her shoulder and gives Koji her most chilling smile yet.
王外の正体を初めて知った時、私はただの善良な一般市民だった。
When I first
交
learned
通違
what
反
Ogai
す
was
ら無
doing,
縁のね。
I was a model citizen, never even gotten a ticket. The woman whom Koji believed was just a normal doctor waves her sawed-off shotgun menacingly as she continues, her tone sharp and bitter.
あの時にこいつがあったなら、私は多分王外をきっちり殺せていただろう。
If I'd had this back then, I could have killed Ogai before he got away.
そうなってれば、もしかしたら君たちがこんな災難に巻き込まれることもなかったかもしれない。その点は申し訳ないと思ってるよ。
Maybe then, none of this would have happened. I feel bad about that, really.
あ
Koji listens in silence, helpless to do anything but watch as understanding moves farther and farther out of his grasp.
だから、
Whoa!
これから私がやることは一切合切。君とその友達が足を突っ込んでる泥沼なありさまを終わらせてやるための手続きだ。
In other words, everything I do from here on out is to clean up this mess that you and your friends have stepped in.
その辺をよく理解して余計な口は突っ込まないこと。いいね。
Remember that, and don't ask any unnecessary questions. Got it? Koji can only nod weakly in response. With the light in her left hand and the shotgun in her right, Ryoko walks up to the door and takes a deep breath. Then she kicks the door open, putting her full weight behind the blow. With a disappointingly feeble sound, the door breaks off its hinges and falls into the room. Dust billows like white smoke in the beam of Ryoko's light. The room is large, at least 35 meters square. Tile floor is set with drainage grates, and there's no mistaking the operating table sitting in the middle of the room. Cabinets are full of enamelware and drugs line one side of the space, and against the opposite wall stands a writing desk and bookshelves. Those things Koji recognizes. The mysterious objects cluttering the tables and shelves, however, are beyond his comprehension. Mirrors delicately engraved with complex patterns, grotesque statues and masks that must have been left by a race of savages, tapestries woven in nauseating array of colors, a crystal ball the size of an infant's head. Any would fetch a hefty price in an antique store if not for the one thing that they all have in common. Every last piece is so loathsome and foul that Koji feels sick just looking at it. It's as though each was designed for the sole sinister purpose of immortalizing its creator's hatred of the world. Rare-looking books of the sort that he found in Ogai's home are piled here and there, and on one shelf are stacked some scrolls that look to be made of some kind of sheepskin or papyrus. Whatever it is, it's not paper. Finally, there are the indecipherable chalk patterns and symbols filling every available space on the walls. Even the two sliding blackboards are covered in strange, unreadable scribbles. Just looking at them is making Koji dizzy. Don't look, Ryoko snaps at him.
いいか、ここから動くな。絶対に何かに触ったりするな。
Listen,
目を引くようなものがあっても見つめたりしちゃいけない。
don't move, and whatever you do, don't touch anything. Even if something draws your attention, don't look at it.
まずいと思ったらすぐに目をそらして自分の靴を見ろ。
If you see something that feels wrong, stare at your shoes. Got it? Oh, are those things what make people turn into like crazy monsters? Is it like some weird kind of like hallucination thing or like hypnotism or something? Yeah. Ryoko switches her light's fluorescent runners on and sets it on a nearby table where it can illuminate the whole room. She then holsters her shotgun, only to pull out an even more confusing set of tools. A digital camera and a can of spray paint. She gives the can in her left hand a good shake, switches the camera in her right hand on, and steps up to the blackboard while looking at the camera's side-mounted screen. After recording one set of symbols, she covers it with a thick layer of paint and moves on to the next.
先生
Doctor?
レッスン1。妙な図形やラテン語の文章とかは絶対に読むな。見つめるな。
Lesson 1. Never look at strange symbols or read anything written in unusual languages like Latin.
機械の目で記録しておいて、 後で注意深く調べればいい。現物はその場で塗りつぶすか何かして破壊しろ。
Use a camera to record them for later, then paint over the original. Now that she mentions it, Koji realizes she's only looking at the screen of her camera. Even then, only in short glimpses, and never directly at any of the drawings. He understands what she's saying, but it still doesn't make any sense.
一体どういう。
Why do you have to...
ここまで深入りしたんなら工学のために黙って聞いておけ。
Now that you've come this far, you'd better shut up and listen for your own good.
あと水晶球とか鏡の類も危ない。下手に壊すとヤブヘビになったりするから、とりあえず布でもかぶせるかペンキを浴びせて封印しろ。
Things like crystal balls and mirrors are dangerous. Anything can happen if you break them, so it's best to cover them with a cloth or paint over them for the time being. Koji begins to fear that this doctor might be even crazier than Fuminori. Despite the burst of energy he received from the vodka, Koji is still exhausted from his night in the well. The fear is affecting his body, making him dizzy and nauseous. Soon the walls are covered in black paint, and the stale air is thick with the smell of turpentine.
とりあえずこんなところか。
That should do for now, Ryoko says with relief, then tosses the empty can aside and puts away her video camera.
オーガイって人はどうなったんです？
What happened to Ogai? Koji asks, supporting himself against a nearby table.
ああ、そこにいたよ。
Oh, he was over there. Without stopping her examination of the papers on the writing table, Ryoko points nonchalantly to a Chinese-style screen standing in one corner of the room. He was there. Her clinical choice of tense makes her meaning instantly obvious. The urge to see for himself is irresistible. Uh-oh. Koji staggers across the room to the screen, taking the utmost care not to look at the scaly octopus thing that is painted on it. Behind the screen is a large easy chair. Although he's never met the man before, Koji is fairly certain that the person sitting in it is Ogai Masahiko. Oh, hi! Ogai's corpse must have shrunk significantly while drawing in this sealed chamber. The body is barely the size of a child's, with only the business suit hanging from the bones offering any hint of Ogai's former stature. His empty eye sockets and wide open jaw are filled with darkness, the same darkness that surrounded Koji at the bottom of the well. Compared to those gaping voids, the tiny hole in Ogai's right temple is almost a mirror. The revolver he presumably used to kill himself is still clenched in his dangling right hand. It looks like a child's toy compared to Ryoko's shotgun. Ryoko must have noticed Ogai's corpse while she was spray painting the walls, and still she kept working without batting an eyelash. Impressive, though not exactly surprising after what he's been through. It's getting difficult to remember the last time he spoke to someone sane. But if not for her, Koji reminds himself with a bitter smirk, he would have ended up joining this mummified corpse here, and no one would have ever found him. Koji's vision suddenly dims. He's pushed himself too hard, and the spiritus vodka can't help him anymore. He collapses to the floor, unable to hang on to his slipping consciousness, and the last thing he sees are Ogai Masahiko's gaping eye sockets staring at him. When he wakes, Koji finds himself lying on something dry and soft. A bed is a bed, he thinks to himself, even one that smells of mold and dust, and especially after sleeping in cold mud all night. There are no lights hanging from the ceiling, but the soft, warm light of a lamp fills the room. Simple furnishings, non-existent decor. Koji realizes he's in Ogai's cabin, in the bedroom that he searched before Fuminori pushed him into the well.
お目覚めかい?
You awake? Ryoko is sitting in a chair against the wall, her expression blank as she studies the pile of documents on the table in front of her. She must have brought them up from Ogai's underground lab. She turns a page and takes a bite from the sandwich in her free hand.
食べる元気があるようならそこに。
If you feel up to eating, there's food over there. Without looking up from the files, she gestures towards the convenience store bag sitting on the nightstand.
俺をどうやってここに？
How did I get here? Koji can't imagine that a woman, even a woman like Ryoko, could have climbed out of the well with him on her back.
あの地下室、本棚の裏に開かない扉があってね。
There was a door behind one of the bookshelves down there, Ryoko mutters, taking care not to let the explanation interfere with her reading or eating.
苦労して破ってみたら別荘のボイラー室に出た。反対側は薄くモルタルを塗って隠してあったんだな。
When I finally got it open, it led to the boiler room underneath the cabin. The other side was hidden with a thin layer of mortar? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
隠し部屋に機材を運び込んでからドアを塞いで その後は井戸から出入りしていたんだろう。周到なもんだ。
I figured that's how he got most of his supplies down there. Once he had everything he needed, he could seal it up and use the well instead. Pretty thorough.
そこまでして隠さなきゃならないものがあの部屋にあったんですか？
Was there really something in there he needed to hide?
昔はね。それにさっきまでも。
There used to be. This is the last of it. Having finished her sandwich, Ryoko picks up some unsorted papers with her free hand and waves them in the air.
世界中の研究者が誰もかも学会で演壇に登ってリサイタルをやりたがるわけじゃないのさ。
Not all scholars want to get on stage at a symposium and show their research to the world, you know.
自分一人が秘密に通じて、最後には自分のしたいもろとも秘密の墓穴にしまい込んで満足するような、そういう変態野郎もいるんだよ。
Some nutcases get their kicks by learning secrets no one else knows, and by being buried with those secrets in hidden tombs that no one will ever find. Koji still hasn't the slightest idea what Ogai's secret might have been. From what Ryoko said in that tunnel, however, he can guess Fuminori is somehow involved.
文則はどうなっちまったんですか？
What happened to Fuminori? Koji asked desperately, no longer caring who he gets answers from.
地下の死体と文則と一体どういう関係があるんです？先生は一体何を追いかけてるんです？
What does he have to do with that body down there? Just what is it that you're after?
今それを調べてるところだよ。
That's what I'm trying to find out, Ryoko replies coldly, as though Koji's concerns are none of hers.
私が咲坂君から聞いたところによると、彼は王外の親族から調査を頼まれているという話だった。
Sakisaka told me he was acting on behalf of one of Ogai's relatives.
ええ、それは俺も聞いてます。
Yes, he told me the same thing.
そうか、一貫してるんだな。
Oh, well, at least that's consistent. Ryoko pulls several sheets of loose-leaf paper from a different file.
だが王外に血縁者はいない。私は咲坂君が嘘をついているものとばかり思っていた。
The truth is that Ogai has no relatives. I thought that Sakisaka was simply lying.
だが、もう一つの可能性を考えるべきだった。
However,
王外の親族を名乗る何者かにそそのかされていたのかもしれない。
there was another possibility I should have considered. He might have been tricked by someone claiming to be Ogai's family. So I'm wondering if Saya was some little girl who was kidnapped by Ogai and turned into a monster, and maybe that's why people who are affected by this see her as a child, as maybe that's what she was before she became a monster. Maybe like with Yo, like Yo at the time when she is turned into the monster, that's what people see her as if they have the disorder. So maybe she wants to find Ogai to get revenge, or maybe just, you know, to get answers, but Saya seems to know a lot about who she is. Ryoko pauses and looks sidelong at Koji.
サヤという名前に
Oh, here we
心
go.
当たりは
We might get some answers. Does the name Saya ring a bell?
さや？いいえ、誰なんですか？
Saya? No, who is that?
さて誰なのか何なのか読めば読むほどわからなくなっていく。
Who or what is the question, but the more I read, the less I understand. She sighs bitterly, then returns her attention to the papers in her hand.
間違いなく言えるのは、そいつが王外の研究の核にあるものらしいということだけだ。
All I can say for sure is that it appears to have been the focus of Ogai's research.
もし咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら、彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいるということになる。
But then again, Saya does say that she's not, so maybe Saya was just always that way, and Ogai discovered her and used her, for research purposes? If Sakisaka is involved with whatever Saya is, then he's already past the point of no return. The icy certainty in Ryoko's voice sounds a chill down Koji's spine.
だとしたらどうするつもりなんです、文則を。
If so, then what will you do? He has to ask, even though he already knows the answer.
さっきも言ったよね。1年前の私も手元に銃を持ってればってどれだけ後悔したか知れないんだ。
It's like I said, Ryoko replies, smirking at the tension in Koji's voice. I have no idea how many times I've wished I'd killed Ogai when I had the chance.
もう二度と後悔するつもりはない。
I won't make the same mistake twice.
俺が警察に行けば済むことです。
If I go to the police, it'll be all over. Ryoko doesn't respond as though she doesn't even hear what Koji just said.
文則がやったことは殺人未遂です。俺が訴えればあいつは犯罪者として。
Fuminori tried to kill me, Koji continues persistently. If I report him, he'll be arrested and...
目撃者は物証は咲坂君が君を殺す動機は
Ryoko cuts him off harshly. You have witnesses? Proof? What was Sakisaka's motive?
なあ、殿君。君は警察の仕事についてひどく勘違いしている。
You know, Tono, you're completely misunderstanding what the police do.
彼らの職分は正義を貫くことでも、市民の安全を守ることでもない。
Their job isn't to fight for justice or even to keep people safe.
そんな。
What are you saying?
不条理な物事について、きちんと条理に沿った体裁を整える。
Finding
これが
reasonable
警察っていう役
explanations
所の仕事だ。
for unreasonable events. That's what the police are for.
彼らの思考はいつだってより理解しやすい方、より説明しやすい方に傾いていく。
They will always choose to believe the simplest, most logical explanation.
それこそ水が低い方へ低い方へと流れていくように。
Just like how water always flows downhill.
事実がどうあろうと彼らには興味ない。彼らが感知するところではないんだよ。
They aren't
小
interested in the
説より
truth.
奇なる事実なんてものは。
They don't know or care that the truth is often stranger than fiction.
そこまで決めつけることないでしょう。話してみなければわかりませんよ。
They can't all be like that. I won't know until I try.
そう、わからない。
Exactly.
そこが問題だ。
Ryoko states as she pulls another sandwich out of the bag. That's the problem. She hasn't spared Koji a second glance since looking at him earlier. Even while talking, her attention is always focused on the papers in front of her.
君が錯乱した親友の手で井戸に落とされたと主張する。
Let's say you accuse your friend of pushing you into a well.
すると、警察はあと2つばかり真実の候補を用意するだろう。君が狂言自殺で親友を陥れようとしているとか。
In addition to your statement, the police will consider two alternate versions of the truth. Maybe you're making it all up to frame your friend.
あるいはもっとシンプルに、事故で井戸に落ちた君が錯乱して親友を疑ってるとか。
Or, even simpler, it was an accident. You fell into the well by yourself and the shock has made you paranoid or delusional.
この3案のどれかが捜査っていうレースで勝ちを競うわけだ。勝ち馬は誰にもわからない。
These three possibilities will compete to see which comes out with the most convincing evidence. No one knows which will be the winner.
こんな博打に君は身代潰すまでかける気かい？
Are you willing to bet everything you have on your truth? Koji has no response. Can he really explain with cold, clear logic what drove Fuminori to do what he did? How can he convince anyone else when he doesn't even understand it himself?
そして一番の問題は、
And here's the biggest problem, Ryoko says calmly, cutting into Koji's thoughts.
君がそういうランチキ騒ぎに手こずっている隙に、咲坂文則を追い詰めるチャンスを逃すことだよ。
While you're raising hell with the police, we'll lose our chance to corner Sakisaka.
身辺で火の手が上がれば、彼は手遅れになる前にさっさと姿をくらますだろう。
If he sees trouble coming,
そ
he'll
うや
go
って
into
また
hiding.
万事が振り出しに戻る。
And then we'll be right back at square one. She pauses to take a bite of her sandwich before finishing.
私が鴎外を取り逃がしたようにね。
Just like when I let Ogai get away. When are we going to find out what exactly happened with Ogai? A heavy silence falls upon them, with only the soft rustle of pages turning in Ryoko's hands to mark the passage of time.
教えてくださいよ、先生。
Please tell me, Doctor, Koji says, his hushed voice breaking through the quiet.
あなたが警察を差し置いてまで処刑しようなんて思うほど、そこまで許しがたいことって何なんです？鴎外って人はあの地下室で何をやってたんですか？
What crime is so unforgivable that you're determined to take justice into your own hands? What exactly did Ogai do in that room down there? Once again, Ryoko ignores Koji's question. This time, however, Koji doesn't back down. His silent glare demands her attention as she pores through the documents before her. After some time, Ryoko rearranges the papers in her hands and sets them aside, as though having come to some conclusion. Are we gonna get the explanation now? She then turns her chair to face Koji for the first time since he awoke.
なあ、殿君。
Listen, Tono. Her hard stare belies the calmness of her voice.
君はここいら辺で降りた方がいい。ナスカ日光の温泉でゆっくり羽を伸ばして、 何もかも忘れる気になってから東京に戻ってきなさい。
You need to get out of this while you still can. There are a lot of fine hot springs around here. Go relax and don't return to Tokyo until you're ready to forget any of this ever happened.
忘れろと。
Forget? Koji feels anger rise within him.
近江は俺の恋人でした。文則は俺の親友でした。それを忘れろと。
Alright, so he's fully like, he believes now Fuminori killed her. Because he's talking about Omi in the past tense. Omi was my girlfriend. Fuminori was my best friend, and you're telling me to forget about them?
そうだ、忘れろ。これは提案じゃない。警告だ。
Yeah, forget about them, Ryoko replies, coolly rebuffing Koji's anger. This isn't a suggestion, it's a warning.
今まではどうであれ。これからの君の人生に、その二人は一切関わりを持たないだろう。断言してもいい。
Whatever they were to you, that's all over now. You'll never see them again, I guarantee it.
じゃあ筑波は。
Then what about Tsukuba? Koji shouts, unable to control himself.
彼女はどうなる？あの子は電話口で俺に助けを求めてた。どこかでひどい目に遭わされてたんだ。
She begged me for help on the phone. Something terrible was happening to her.
そりゃ何十時間前の話かね。
And how many hours ago was that?
私が君を助けてから何時間経ったと思う。そうでなければ、井戸の中の君があと何時間持ったと思う。
Do you know how much time has passed since I saved you? How much longer do you think you would have lasted down there if I hadn't? She shakes her head,
遅すぎるよ。彼女はとっくに死んでるだろう。
then declares coldly,
誰もが君ほど幸運だなんて思わない方がいい。
It's too late. She's already dead. Don't expect everyone to be as lucky as you.
あんたは
You heartless. Koji growls, unable to suppress his anger.
あの井戸で俺の死体を見つけても、あんた何とも思わなかったんだろうな。
If you'd found me dead in that well, you wouldn't have thought anything of it, would you?
そりゃ覚悟してたからね。まさか生きてるとは思わなかったよ。
I was prepared for that, of course, Ryoko says with a shrug, unfazed by Koji's ire. I hardly expected to find you alive. It's futile to argue with this woman, Koji realizes. Her values are fundamentally different from his own. Nothing he can say will ever move her. Koji gets out of bed and stands on shaky legs.
どのくらい俺は寝てたんです。
How long have I been asleep?
ざっと半日ばかり。消耗した後速やかに休息が取れるってのは羨ましいね。
About half a
若いう
day.
ちだけだよ。
I envy your
そういう無
ability
茶
to
な
recover
聞くの
so quickly. It's a privilege of youth, so enjoy it while it lasts. Oh, that makes me sad. She talks like in her 30s and she's like, oh, youth. I'm like, I'm getting there. I'm getting to her age. So Koji looks at his watch and sees it's 4 in the morning, which means it was already early evening when Ryoko rescued him. He can't believe he survived in that well for almost 2 days. Now that the gaps in his memory have been filled and his sense of time has returned, he realizes it's already Sunday morning. Ryoko's right. A lot of time has passed since he spoke to Yo on the phone. Koji grabs a sports drink and 2 jelly packs from the bag of food that Ryoko brought, then heads for the door. His legs are still a little unsteady, but he can compensate for that with sheer willpower. Oh god, he's not going to listen to her and he's going to go find Fuminori himself, maybe? Or go to the police?
念のため聞かせてもらうが、どこに行くつもりだい？
Just to make sure, mind telling me where you're going?
東京へ。
Tokyo, Koji replies brusquely. His voice is hard as hers.
筑波陽はまだ間に合うかもしれない。
Yep. Oh,
彼女
dude.
を助けに行き
You
ま
had a
す。
second chance and you're gonna throw it away. Tsukuba might still be alive. I'm going to save her.
人の話を聞かないやつだね、君は。
You just don't listen, do you?
聞く耳持たないのはお互い様でしょ
I could say the same about you. Koji is expecting Ryoko to watch him go with that cold, mocking smile of hers. Instead, however, she sighs heavily and rests her jaw in her hands.
もう少し待つ気はないか。こいつのどこかに。
Can't you wait a little longer? Somewhere in here, she thrusts her chin at the mountain of papers in front of her.
王外が鞘と名付けたものが何だったのか、答えが隠されてるはずだ。
Is the answer
そ
to
い
what
つを
this
突
thing
き止め
called
て、
Saya
ちゃんと
is?
対策を講じてから動くべきだと私は思う。
I think you should wait until I figure that out and come up with a plan to deal with it. I want him to listen. Just listen to her. Just stay alive for a little bit.
筑波が死んでると決めてかかってるあんたなら当然そう思うでしょうね。
You would think that since you're already convinced that Tsukuba is dead. In truth, Koji is extremely uneasy about going it alone. At the same time, however, he knows he mustn't depend on Ryoko. She's made it clear she doesn't care about saving lives. Teaming up with her will only make it more difficult to salvage something, anything out of this nightmare shit. Alright, he's not listening to her. He's a goner.
Tono-kun.
Tono, Ryoko calls just before Koji steps out the door.
仮にも一度は殺されかかってるんだ。
Exactly.
もう二度と殺されるな。
You almost got killed once already. Don't let it happen again. She picks something up from the table and tosses it to Koji. Oh, the gun. When Koji catches it, he feels its solid weight fill his hand.
これは
This is... Koji stares at the menacing shape of cold metal. It's a revolver, the same one that was clenched in Ogai's skeletal fist. Well, make sure it's got bullets, though.
あと4発入って
There we
る。
go.
安全装置はない。
It
引き金を引くだけで弾が出る。
has 4 more shots. There's no safety, so just pull the trigger to fire.
どこでどう使うかは君の判断に任せるよ。
How you use it is up to you. If Koji were his usual cautious self, he would not hesitate to reject the dangerous offering. The only time you truly need his gun is when all hope is lost. He'd prefer not to fight a losing war. And yet, without even knowing it, Koji has already set foot into Ryoko's world. Choosing instinct over reason, he accepts the small but deadly weapon and stuffs it into his pocket. That seems to be a thing here, a running theme in this is instinct over reason. There's no question that Koji intends to save Yo and bring Fuminori to answer for his crimes. In the back of his mind, however, he can hear the footsteps of ruin approaching. Damn. When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the outside air is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated the cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he would have surely frozen to death. Koji finds 2 cars parked in the yard. The smaller car next to him must be Ryoko's. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling that he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips the sports drink, wetting his parched throat, and washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty, but he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs the energy. No matter how hard it is, he must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls out his spare cell phone from his bag. Oh no, don't call her phone, because then Fuminori's gonna know he's alive and go after him. He never expected that carrying 2 phones would be such a stroke of luck. As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He's unable to decide what to feel toward his friend. Jesus! Come on, dude, like, you're gonna call him straight up? Oh, it's like sending a warning to him, like, hey, time to pack up and go into hiding, just like Ryoko said, or to kill Koji. However, there's no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider it might already be too late. He steels himself and presses the button, and holds the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sound seems to go on for longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. Oh shit. The call goes through. In the silence on the other end of the phone, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab.
Yo. そんなに意外か
God damn it.
死人からの電話
Ruining the sense of surprise. What, weren't expecting a call from a dead man?
驚いたね。どうやって
And now he's gonna tell that Ryoko is in on it, so now Fuminori's gonna go after Ryoko too. I'm surprised. How did you manage it? As Koji's about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him.
井戸の底に仕掛けがあったのさ。地下の隠し部屋に行くためのな。
There was a secret passage in the well, Koji says, a plan forming rapidly in his mind. It led to a hidden underground lab. He pauses to let that sink in. Then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says,
会えたぜ。大貝正彦と。
I met Ogai Masahiko. Fuminori's gasp tells Koji the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bold, he decides to further exaggerate the truth.
何もかも分かった。
おー
サヤってやつのことも全部。
Ooh, I know it all.
お前
Everything
たちは
about
終わりだ
Saya.
よ、フミノリ。
You're finished, Fuminori.
何もかもバラしてやる。ところ構わずにぶちまけてやる。
I've got all the proof I need to
証拠は
blow
ちゃんと
this
揃って
thing
るから。
wide open. You won't even see it coming.
貴様は
You son of a bitch. It's obvious from Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response to the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that still wants to believe his friend can be saved.
咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら
If Sakisaka's involved with whatever Saya is, Ryoka's words play back in his head, sounding even colder than before.
彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいる
And he's already past the point of no return. He mustn't allow emotion to sway him.
フミノリ。近江と筑波はどこだ？
Where are Omi and Yo? Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance. It all comes down to this.
俺にだって情けはある。お前の出方次第では考えんでもない。
Well, if he says that, then he's just gonna lie. Depending on your answer, I might be willing to cut you a deal.
お前がこれ以上誰も傷つけないというのなら、俺にしたことは忘れてやる。この別荘で見つけたことも。
That's an empty one, considering they can't really cause any much more pain. I mean, I guess to Yo, they could leave her alone or maybe just mercy kill her. But, I mean, he doesn't really have the advantage on this. If you swear not to cause any more harm, I'll forget about what you did to me and about what I found at the cabin.
俺だってこれ以上、お前とサヤに関わり合いを持つのは願い下げなんだ。近江たちさえ無事に戻ればいい。
I don't want anything more to do with you and Saya anyway. All I want is for Omi and Yo to be safe.
近江とようね
Omi and Yo. Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji can be trusted and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand.
近江のことは本当に知らない彼女は僕の家まで来ていない
Okay, does he still...
でもよ
I was gonna say, does he still legit not know what happened to Omi? Like, does he not realize that he ate her? Would he not at least seen her shoes? I guess they wouldn't look like shoes in his mind, but I wonder if he really is, like... If he really doesn't understand what happened to Omi, or if he's just playing dumb. But, I mean, he's telling the truth about Yo. Maybe. I honestly don't know anything about Omi. She never came by my house. Yo, on the other hand. Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends chills up Koji's spine.
よはどうだかな
Well, I wonder if she'll really
彼女
want
自
to
身が
leave.
戻りたがるかどうか
お前のところにいるんだな。
She's with you, isn't she? Koji is relieved to learn Yo's location and that she, at least, is still alive. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call. It's clear now Fuminori played some part in Yo's suffering. Had she already fallen into his trap back then? What has happened to her? How is she being treated?
彼女はね念願かなってようやく僕の持ち物になったんだよお前と近江のお膳立てもようやく身を結んだわけだ
I can see Koji just going, like, you know, having his emotions take over and he's gonna storm in and even with the gun, he's gonna be overpowered because he probably won't expect Saya and Saya's gonna come up with her little tentacles and take him too. Her wish has finally come true, Fuminori says with venomous sarcasm. She's my property now. I guess you and Omi got what you wanted after all. Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower will this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared?
筑波を解放しろ。彼女の安全を確認したら、お前らについての証拠を破棄してやる。
Let Tsukuba go. When I'm sure she's safe, I'll destroy everything I have on you and Saya.
信用できるかそっちが先に
How can I trust you? First, I want you to...
お前に選択の余地を与えるつもりはないよ。
I'm not giving you a choice here, Fuminori. Koji instinctively realizes it's dangerous to push his bluff any further.
後でまた連絡する。それまでによく考えておけ。
I'll call again later. You have until then to make up your mind. He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji is still at the cabin in Tochigi. Right now he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. 3 hours. That's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid his body won't carry him through such a long drive. His mind is clear, but his limbs still feel half asleep, like they're weighted down with lead. Although he knows he has to stay resolute, Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his mind. Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all of this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? Or will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Well, we'll see if he even has a chance to return to his old life. I don't have a good feeling about it. Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of weakness. For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. Like, Koji's such a good dude, and I want him to be safe. And when his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. Alright guys, so that will do it for this episode. As I expected, it got worse, and it will just continue to get worse, I assume, with each passing episode. Like, yo, I can't imagine a worse existence, and I'm sure I don't know if I want to know, like, in media or games or whatever, like, a worse scenario for a character to be in. That's kind of right up there. Like, that's horrible. That's worse than death. So, yo, I don't think there's any going back. I know that Sai says that she can fix things, but I don't see why she would have any reason to want to fix Yo. And, I mean, Koji, good on him for getting a second chance at life, but I feel like he might have just squandered it by, reacting to emotion instead of just waiting. I understand his point of view and wanting to save his friends, but I feel like that may have just doomed him. But there's only one way to find out. We'll just have to wait and see what happens next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye. Special thanks to my top tier patrons: Nemera Kito, Asborn Kennedy, Sparky, Mad Goldsmith, iCognito, and Simon Rax.